to pass because what we saw is a bill that had no funds for overtime for exhausted border and border patrol people that have been working and working. They're overwhelmed. There's so many people. We're apprehending people, and so we have a certain amount of time to keep them. And the bill that we saw, there were no funds for additional beds, no place to keep those who got children and sleeping on the ground. There's not enough shelter room. We don't have, we had a bill that didn't defund investigating human trafficking. So you're saying people are coming across the border, who's seeing who they are. It doesn't have funding for our National Guard and active duty military or assisting customers and border patrol. It's so important. We care about the children. We care about the people that are coming across and they're kept safe. We also know that we have to secure our borders. People are coming from at this time, over 51 different countries. Who are they? Why are they coming across our border? The bill that we saw requires us to spend money in Central American countries, even if they're not helping us on the immigration problem. It restricts our border to place children in emergency shelters where they'll be safe, moving quickly because it's worsening conditions in the border. We want the people, all of you, to know that we're working on this, that it's important, and we're willing to stay until we get a bill that we can support that'll make a difference in this crisis at the border. Being from Texas, we understand this, and so we want your support and let you know what's going on. Thank you.
So nobody understands that the level of crisis that we're in at the border like Texas. And this president has repeatedly reached out in good faith to our Democratic counterparts and to Speaker Pelosi, pleading with her to provide the resources that we need to provide humane services, basic care to folks that are being detained while they're being processed, and if found here unlawfully and without credible asylum claims, will be deported back to their home country. Meanwhile, there is an absolute meltdown going on, and the leadership of the Nancy Pelosi-led House is also on meltdown. This should be an easy one, how we treat people who are being detained. There should be no question with respect to America's values and how we do that. We have a crisis with respect to the security of our citizens, and we have a crisis with how we treat the folks who are being detained. The latter one should be very straightforward. The Senate proved that it is straightforward and passed a bipartisan bill to give the president what he's asked for almost 60 days, and that Republicans in the House have presented to our Speaker repeatedly, 18 times, and it passed with 84 votes, overwhelmingly supported in a bipartisan fashion in the Senate. And so you learn a lot about leaders and how they respond to crises. And I think that there's a crisis in confidence in the Democratic leadership in the House. First, Speaker Pelosi said that walls were immoral. I've never heard a more irrational comment. Whether you believe that's the end-all be-all or not, to work behind physical barriers, to live behind them, and to say that walls are immoral is nonsense. And then to say that this was a manufactured crisis for months before now recognizing that in fact it is. Even President Obama's Secretary of Homeland Security said that this was a crisis. And now everybody agrees that it is. And now to play political games with people's lives, people who've made a dangerous trek, and make that trek because we provide magnets, because we have loopholes, because we have real issues with our immigration system and with the enforcement of our immigration laws that need to be fixed. And we stand shoulder to shoulder, and we are resolved in our fight together to secure our border and protect our citizens, but also to treat those who are here while they're being processed with respect and dignity, and That's what the president's asked for, and that's what Speaker Pelosi has denied repeatedly. So we're calling on her to put the bipartisan bill that was passed out of the Senate on the floor so we can do the right thing and move forward as a country. Thank you.
I'm Brian Babbitt from Texas, and I'm so proud to be here with many of my colleagues from the great Lone Star State. No other state is impacted any more intensely and detrimentally than the state of Texas. We got a long, long border. And what we have just witnessed this morning on the House floor, we had a bill that came out of the Senate, not a perfect bill by a long shot, but a bill that will deliver what this President Trump's been trying to do in very good faith. He's trying to use all the tools in his hand to secure our border, but he needs the help of the United States Congress. And Speaker Pelosi and the far left part of her wing of her party will not let us vote on that bill. But they are having a crisis inside of their party. Many of these Democrats have decided they cannot any longer deny this, that there's a situation on the border that is not really a crisis from any way you look at it, whether it's national health, whether it's schools being overwhelmed. 144,000 came over just last month, illegals, and that's just the ones we know about. This president is doing the best that he can. We have to have a congressional action, and in order to stop the magnet to bring these people, they keep bringing these people up here from all over the world, 51 different nations, although most of them are coming from Central America. We have got to turn that welcome sign off. We have to do that. In order to do that, we've got to have interior enforcement. And yet, we heard the Speaker of the House talk about interior enforcement. Her quote was, interior enforcement, what's the point? Well, the point is we cannot continue to sustain 1 million plus a year coming in illegally, overwhelming our country. And we want to be humane about this. We want to treat these people with dignity and respect, but we also have to remember this is an invasion, folks. This is an absolute invasion of our country, and it's an invasion that puts everyone in the United States at grave danger. And without interior enforcement, the president will have his hands tied. So I'm hoping and hoping very expectantly, let's put it like that Ms. Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, will let us have the opportunity to vote on this Senate bill and give some help, some assets, some more beds for detention, more boots on the ground, if you will, to enable our security folks down there, our professionals, to do the job that they need to do. And so I'm proud to be a Texan. We have to protect our Texas folks, and that's what we're trying to do. Thank you so very much.
Hi, Kevin Brady from the 8th Congressional District. In all my years in Congress, I don't think I've ever seen anything quite as inhumane and cruel as what we are seeing from House Democrats today. They are determined to deny humanitarian aid to these migrant families on the border, as well as the support funding we need to be able to deal with this ever-growing and seemingly endless crisis. This isn't about Republicans or Democrats, because Republicans and Democrats came together already in the Senate and voted overwhelmingly. They found common ground. Why can't we in the House? So to my Democrat colleagues in Texas, I would implore you to stand up for our state and stand up to Nancy Pelosi and Representative Ocasio-Cortez. Tell them that you will no longer stand meekly by and watch them deny food, medicine, and shelter to these migrant families and their children. Stand up for our state. Be the better person we know you can be.
Howdy, my name is Pete Olson. I'm from Texas 22, which is a suburban district outside of Houston, Texas. We are the largest district in the country and the most diverse one. This issue hurts us to our core. It's not Democrat or Republican. It is humanity, and this is an humanitarian crisis. Senate Democrat friends' proposal was going to make it worse. We have one chance right now to make this thing right. The best outcome possible is to pass the Senate bill. It's much, much better than the House bill. It's supported by Chuck Schumer, Dick Durbin, Dianne Feinstein. Every Democrat in leadership supports the Senate bill. Our bill is not going anywhere. Mitch McConnell won't bring it up. Donald Trump won't sign it. This is the last train leaving the station. Pass this bill now. Let us vote on the Senate bill and take care of this crisis right here, right now. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Roger Williams, represent Congressional District 25 in Texas. This is a disaster in huge proportions. The Senate, as we know, has already passed legislation bipartisan that I think we can vote for. It will get voted for out of the House. But Nancy Pelosi has been held up by the socialists in her party, and that has got to be fixed. What would it feel like today if you're in the Border Patrol down the Texas border, the McAllen sector, and you find out that you're overwhelmed, you're overworked, you're doing things you never thought you'd have to do when you trained, and oh, by the way, we don't want to pay you overtime. We don't want to supply shelter for these young people. This is a compassionate bill. We are the compassionate party, and we need action. And their whole decision process is made up by disliking this president, not wanting him to succeed, and not wanting him to have a win. Well, it is not President Trump that has a win, it's America that has a win when we pass this legislation. And to hold this legislation up on the floor, to hold this country hostage, and frankly to hold Texas hostage, is the worst thing I can imagine somebody could do. That is not patriotism. So I would tell Nancy and ask Nancy Pelosi, forget the socialist agenda that you have. Forget the socialists that are in your party. Look at this country. Look what built this country. Cooperation is what built this country. We need you to put your party preferences aside. Let's get this bill on the floor. Let's pass it. Let's tell our Border Patrol that we love you, we appreciate you, we want to pay you, and keep doing the good job you're doing. God bless America.
Well, it's Mike Conaway, 611. What I would add to the conversation is that this is a federal responsibility. It is not a Texas-only responsibility. Resources are being diverted from the Texas taxpayers to address these issues. This should be a shared issue from across this country. States that don't have borders with Mexico. The other thing I would add is that there's some 13,000 children who are in care of HHS. These are children who walked across the border unaccompanied, no adults, and just simply presented themselves. And so as compassionate Americans and compassionate Christians, we take these children in, and while we are processing them, we have to hold them someplace. We have to feed them, we have to give them medical care, we have to clothe them, we have to provide education, recreation while this process is going on. Secretary Azar told us this past week that they reduced the time it takes to place a child somewhere in the system in the United States dramatically so that they're spending time in our care for the least amount of time. But while they're there, we've got to have the resources to be able to take good care of them. And that's what this bill, the bulk of this bill goes, is to be able to make sure that while we're looking for a sibling, while we're looking for a parent or some blood relative in the United States that child can be placed with, or while we've contacted the parents back in Guatemala to find out where they want the child to go, if it's a stranger or someone they don't know, we've got to vet those people. So while that all is going on, it's our responsibility to take good care of those children. And that's what this funding would be about. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle have over and over and over used these children as props, as leverage to get something else that they want. But at the end of the day, this is about taking care of children who are already in our care. It's our responsibility to get that done. So pass the Senate version of 3401 and get this done and behind us. We then need to deal with all the other immigration issues that are incentivizing folks to come to this nation. Step one is to get this funding done. I urge passage of it today.
I'm Ron White, 6th District of Texas. And I've got to tell you that what we've seen from Democrats in the House this week, what we've heard from them this week, is the most cynical display I've ever seen come out of the House of Representatives. You know, I am moved by their newfound concern for the children at the border. Republicans have been concerned about the children at the border. We were concerned in January the Democrats then? We were concerned in February, March, April, May. Where were the Democrats then? The Democrats then were obstructing and delaying. They were calling it a manufactured crisis, remember? Or denying there was any crisis at all. And when presented with the raw data, Nancy Pelosi said, well, I'll reject your facts. You remember that one? And now suddenly they have this concern for the children on the border. They're the ones that have helped create this crisis by constantly delaying action. And we need to do this today. We need to get the Senate bill over here, and we need to vote it so we can get it to the White House and finally do something to actually help people, help cure the humanitarian crisis at the border. Thank you.
Michael Cloud, Texas 27th. We have heard a lot of talk about children over the last few days from the other side of the aisle, and that's encouraging that we're finally recognizing that this is a crisis. As been said, we've been calling this a humanitarian crisis, a national security crisis, a criminal crisis for months now. And so it's finally great to see everyone coming around to the table recognize this is a crisis. What's disappointing is the hypocrisy of finger pointing and name calling and all those kind of things that have come with talking about the children when for months we've been taking this head on and trying to get action on this. I think it's important to recognize that the headlines that we've all seen in the last few days could have easily been avoided if we would have seen action on this months ago, weeks ago. But instead what the House did was put a bill on the floor that did nothing to help solve the problem. There's been some sort of this idea that lawlessness is compassion that's seeped into the other side of the aisle, and it's an idea that we need to squelch because truthfully we need the assets on the border to take care of the situation. We have good men and women doing the best they can. We haven't given them the funds they need, the tools they need to deal with the situation that's on hand. This bill doesn't solve everything, but it is what they say a compromise up here, and it starts the process. It buys us some time to deal with the larger issues that are creating the problem while dealing with some of the emergency humanitarian issues. And so it's important that we do see action on this and deal with the situation.
I'm Louis Gomert, represent East Texas. We're a good ways from the border, and so I'm not going to repeat what everybody else has said, but something that we're all being asked about is that horrendous picture of a father and the little child that are drowned face down trying to get into the United States. And what occurs to me with my legal background is that for thousands of years the law has evolved to the best form of justice in the history of the world. And what we say for private landowners, if you have something like a swimming pool or a pool pond and you don't secure your boundary and somebody comes in and drowns, then they'll probably bankrupt you, getting a verdict against you for having an attractive nuisance, and you refuse to secure your boundary, your border. And so if it weren't for the immunity that members of Congress have, then there's no question the Democrats, in my mind, the Democrats in the House and Senate would be bankrupt from lawsuits by those who were lured into the United States, and they refused to secure our boundaries, and therefore people were harmed and even died trying to get in. It is outrageous what's going on. The House bill made it even more of a disaster. It would lure even more people. Unfortunately, the Senate's, in my opinion, the Senate is not a great bill either. But it tells you how bad the House bill is. The fact that the Senate bill is so much better, it should give you an indication of just how bad the House bill is. So the Democrats in the Senate, they don't want to secure our border. They don't want money in there to secure the border. But there is a humanitarian crisis, and we have got to take a first step toward dealing with that. Hopefully, we'll be able to come back and get some money for the border, but to secure it, and not just for the humanitarian crisis that's there. but I hope that people will be pushing the Senate to do even better to get some money to help secure our border so we don't have to see the human tragedy that continues to go on because of the Democrats' refusal to secure our boundary like any good homeowner would do. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here, and thank you for this talk to people in Texas. We hope